Li Cree, 2D animator, storyboard artist, and character designer, working in TV animation, both for American and Japanese productions. Although you probably already knew that since you signed up for this panel talk. So hello.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to get into it. I'm Lorraine, by the way. I'm co-host, co-director of events at Black and Animated. We're going to try to be doing this more often. Jordan's been doing a lot of heavy lifting behind the scenes. So hello, Jordan.
Hi, and I am director of social media. So glad to see everyone, and I hope you guys got your tea ready.
Yes. I even have my Hatsune Miku blue mug with the Hatsune Miku shirt. I'm ready. I love anime. Yeah, Lee, you had a presentation, or did you have anything you want to say before showing your cool PowerPoint?
Oh my God, where do we start? Like, just I don't know. Did you want to ask about like how I got into anime or anything?
Yeah. Where did you start? Where did your anime dreams begin? And how did you make those dreams into reality? Like, what was your shonen arc?
Shonen protagonist arc.
Yeah.
Well, technically, wouldn't it be shoujo because I'm female?
I guess.
But I'm not.
It's a different kind of storyline, though.
Yeah.
You can have shonen protagonists and still be girls.
That's true. How did it start? Honestly, I've always just grown up with anime. I like to say I'm as old as the very first like Pokemon game, which came out in February 1999. So I just feel like it's always just been part of my life. 1996, not 1999. But yeah, it's just always been there, like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, One Piece. If anybody remembers the awful 4Kids TV rap, that was my childhood. And yeah, just from like a very, very young age, I've always just been enamored with anime. Because I was like, wow, cartoons can have like a real like story plot. And I also just liked the art more than American cartoons at the time. So yeah. It wasn't until
when did you first start realizing that maybe the shows you liked were maybe like not American, like maybe they were anime? Like, did you have like that, oh my God, like that's why they like look and feel different?
I think there would just be like certain things they would say because it was English dubbed that didn't make sense to me. Like, does anybody remember when like Brock from Pokemon said, wow, this is a good jelly donut, but it's clearly like a rice ball? And so that was like one of the things where I was like, wait a minute, that's not a donut, that's clearly rice. There's something different here. So I think that's when I started to realize, oh, this is like from a whole entire different country altogether. And then I think at that point, that's when like the internet was very much like, it's not where it is today, but you can definitely like Google things and find stuff. And that's how I got into like watching what was called, it was called raw anime, but it was just unsubbed. Like it was just the pure like Japanese like broadcasting that were like pirated online and uploaded to YouTube in parts. And I was like, oh wow, this is like a whole entire different language, a whole entire different culture. And I just thought, wow, how can I work on this? This is so cool. They get to like write stories that are not like purely just like made for comedy. Like there's plots and characters have like relationships and dynamics. And also at the time, like there was Naruto, there was Bleach, and Bleach we'll talk about much later because I did get to work on Bleach, but Bleach was also one of those very first animes where I was like, oh my goodness, people who kind of look like me can also be a part of this world too, because that wasn't something I saw a lot in American cartoons. So yeah, I think that's when I started realizing it. It's like the subtle like cultural differences that didn't quite match up to like English. That was like,
yeah. Oh, same for me. Like I definitely remember watching Sailor Moon and then hearing like, oh my God, there's all this stuff in Sailor Moon that you don't know about, like you know, like Haruka and stuff, like being cousins, when it's like, oh, they're not cousins in another country. And I'm like, what? And I remember just getting on the internet, I'm like, oh my God, this is from a different country. That's why it looks so pretty.
It's like, oh my God, no wonder it looks so good.
Yeah, it just has like just a little bit of a different vibe. So that's always really cool to hear like how people like had their eyes opened. It's like, oh my God, my mind's being blown right now.
Yes. But yeah, that's how I like got into anime. It was always there from my childhood. So it feels weird to say that I grew up with it. But I really did. And it makes me happy now that like it's normal to watch anime, because back when I was like 10 years old, that wasn't cool. So I'm just happy that, you know, it's more accessible and normal to watch it now.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad. Like, I remember when Crunchyroll was like a pirating website. Like, it was just like a fan sub website. And it's like, it's so cool to see like how far they've come. Now they're just like a part of Sony.
Yeah, they're just like, yeah, we own all the anime and we have our own exposition convention. Technically, we invest in animes, which is weird to see whenever I do watch anime and it's like invested by Crunchyroll and you're like, what?
Yeah, rest in peace Crunchyroll Expo 2023. But they had a good run.
They had a good run. We all can't be winners, can we?
It was a good con. Hopefully they bring it back. But yeah, I heard you have a presentation.
Oh, I do have a presentation because I was asked to share art, but my brain was like, but what if I made a presentation instead?
Okay. And also had another question. I guess, how did you get into anime, or is this in the presentation?
Oh, it's not. This is not in the presentation, but I can talk about how I got into anime and
like as an industry artist.
Yeah, so it's a little bit. It's not really like a grand story because it was really just like a cold email at the end of the day from Studio Shaft in Japan, who primarily is known for doing like the Madoka series. So it was just one day I woke up at like 7 a.m. and I saw an email. It was all in Japanese, but I could point out Studio Shaft anime work consultation like in Japanese. That was as much as I could like read because I was half asleep. And I remember like springing out of bed and being like, wait, what? And then reading the email, and at the time they were asking if I was interested in working on Madoka Magica Record side story or Ruby, which is created by Rooster Teeth here in America, but apparently they just like were popular in Japan and they like had a whole entire like anime production. So I chose Madoka because one, I am a Madoka fan. I remember watching the very first anime, like what year did that come out? Like 2010 or something?
Yeah, so I think it just recently turned like 10 years old.
Yeah, so like 10 years ago, I remember watching Madoka and be like, how cute anime magical girls, and then it was like tragedy, and I'm like, oh wow, this is a subversion of the genre, for better or worse. So yeah, like Madoka was my very, very first anime. It was a cold email, and right after the episode aired, last year in April, actually, it's almost been a year since then, my next show was Boruto, which is the sequel to the Naruto series. I'm pretty sure Naruto is no stranger to everybody here in this chat who is an anime fan. But that one was straight up a Twitter DM, like a production assistant or PA had messaged me. They saw that I worked on Madoka and they were like, would you be interested in working on Boruto for some cuts? And I was like, I guess I can say yes. So I said yes, and one thing led to another, and now I am neck deep in anime. a whole year later. So it really just became like somebody discovered my work online. They reached out to me through email or through Twitter, and that's pretty much how I usually get a lot of my like animating jobs. That's like 2D animation, not storyboarding. It really is just like hey, we found your work on Twitter, Instagram, your website. Would you be interested in doing some work for us? And yeah, so that's actually how I got into anime. It's not like a super cool grand story, like probably like my storyboarding jobs, but it's still it's still cool, I guess.
No, yeah, it's so exciting.
But yeah, I made a presentation called Drawing Hot Anime Characters 101. Yes, it is a science.
Yes, yes. I will be taking notes.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm not going to teach you how to like draw hot anime characters. I just made this as a joke slide because I thought it would be funny. But I am going to be going through like, it's a very general overview of like what is to be expected out of you being an animator, a freelance animator for animes and stuff. So you actually, this is the first time I'm ever going to be sharing any of my work from anime, like my actual cuts. Not that I don't want to, it's just a lot of this was like a year ago, my very first starting out like type of work. So I wasn't just like proud of it to post it online, but you will see a lot more recent things in here, primarily Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, which started airing last summer, and part 2 will be airing this coming summer in July, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that because sometimes delays happen. But yeah, I'm going to show you like these are the terms, this is what the template looks like, this is what the art looks like, and all that type of stuff. So yes, it's a science. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
So before we begin, I'm going to be like going through a lot of different terminology. So these are like, it's a quick run through of what I'm going to be like saying most of the times. So Conte are storyboards. Very straightforward. It's the equivalent of how we do storyboards here in America, except you will see that storyboards in Japan vary a lot. Next, we have cuts. A cut is an equivalent to a shot. So if I say, yeah, I had to do 10 cuts for Boruto, that means I did 10 shots for Boruto. Next, we have a core. A core is the equivalent to a season order for a show. So Bleach, for example, is a 2-core anime, meaning that it has a set of 12 to 13 episode order, which equals anywhere between like 24 to 26 episodes. If an anime is referred to as a split core, it means that it's a full 24 to 26, but it's aired at 2 different times. So Bleach is actually, I believe it's a 4 split core, if I remember correctly, where they have more than just like 26 episodes planned out, but they're airing it at like last summer, next summer, the following summer, like that type of logic. Next we have serifu, which is dialogue. So you'll see in some of my layouts that you'll see like serifus written and you'll see like red circles going back and forth. Those are the lip flaps that you draw because you're not normally given actual voice recordings when you're doing anime. Voice recordings are done after the fact, which is completely different for American animation, where we usually have scratch audio or voice recordings while we're doing the storyboard process. That doesn't happen in anime. LO stands for layout. That's very simple. Then we have Genga, which is what mostly I will be showing you today is layout, Genga, and Nigen. But Genga literally means original drawing. Gen means original, Ga means drawing, so original drawing. This is called the key animation, or for short, it's abbreviated to KA. Then we have Nigen, which is the literal meaning second drawing. Ni is 2, and Gen is an abbreviation of Genga, so it's second original drawing. And these drawings are basically after you give out your Genga or your layout, you have the Shutsu, which is the episodic director, or the Sakan, which is the animation supervisor or director. They give corrections on your work. And you will actually see some of that in this presentation. So this is also referred to as second key animation or like corrected key animation, because usually either the Genga man, who's the person who did the key animation, does the corrections themselves after the directors give them notes, or there's just like a whole entire different team that does it for you. It depends. Every production is different. And then we have Douga, which are in-betweens. Again, a literal meaning. Do means movement and ga means drawing. So moving, drawing in-betweens. It's like they're very efficient with how they categorize things. And then we have kantoku, which is director. This is similar to a supervising director here in America, where they oversee the whole entire production from beginning, middle, and end in every single department. Think of them as like, yeah, equivalent to like a showrunner, supervising director, where they just oversee everything and oversee the vision of the whole entire show creatively. And then we have Enshutsu, which I mentioned earlier. This is your episodic director who also does the storyboards most of the time. Sometimes they will have assistants, or they do just have a whole entire different storyboard artist altogether, but it's very common to have the episodic director do the storyboards for the episode, and they do it by themselves. And again, you will see in the storyboards that you don't necessarily have to be the best artist to draw storyboards for anime. And then last we have Sakan, which is the animation director and supervisor. And this person is the one who unifies everything in terms of the visual quality of the anime. They're the ones who make sure that everything is on model. They provide corrections. Sometimes if you ever, for example, like watch a My Hero Academia episode on broadcast, but then when you see it on Blu-ray, a cut looks entirely different, like the line weight is different, because the Sakan goes back in and adds those details for like Blu-rays and stuff. But that also happens on normal broadcasts as well. And again, you will get to see more as we go along. So next slide. So we'll start off with Conte, because usually after you write a script, you got to do the storyboards. So in Japan, the storyboards can vary a lot, and you can see that you can either be very rough, somewhere in the middle, or very detailed, where like they're even drawing like the lines for like where the fingers bend and trees and backgrounds and stuff. Most of the time, storyboards that I receive kind of look like the first one for the most part. I rarely ever get the second or third one. But yeah, these are real storyboards that I do personally own, because these are all cuts that I did. First one's from Madoka Magica Record, second Boruto, and 3 Legends of Mana, which was it's a Square Enix mobile game, if I remember correctly, but that was recently turned into an anime that premiered last year. So yeah, you get to, this is what it starts out with, and I'm going to show you how we transform it into something else. But yeah, as a key animator, or known as a Gengaman, what are the main poses and breakdowns, but also you're doing background layout, and you are indicating the light direction for a lot of the shots. So it's a lot. It's not just drawing hot anime characters, although there's a part of that in there. But yeah, this is where it usually starts out with. So next, oh God, you guys are about to see my very first cuts, and they look awful. But all right. So just to show you a comparison of like what the storyboard looks like versus like the layout in Genga. This is an example of a cut I did for Madoka Magica Record episode 24, cut 203. Yes, 203. the average anime episode has at least 300 cuts. So it's quite a lot. But you can see here that like a lot of it, I have to figure out the perspective, where's the lighting, how is this character sitting? And thankfully for this shot, it was mostly still. What was really more important was more so the layout of like, where's the character sitting and where's the lighting coming through and how does the perspective in this train scene work? Because I think for this particular shot, they were using 2D background elements and 3D assets. So this is just an example of like, yes, this is what a storyboard looks like, but this is how I interpret it. And it probably looks very different because I don't remember this episode at this point. It's been a year. So it probably looks even more different than it does now. But I basically put down the blueprint of like, this is what the shot looks like with proper perspective. At least I think it is at the time. So
that's
yeah.
so cool. Like, do they get, so they don't provide like the background or like or anything like that? They just sort of like
it depends on the production. So most productions now, because they utilize 3D assets, they'll have like 3D models and they'll take screenshots of like, this is where it is. Like just draw the characters on top of that. But if you're with like an older studio, which we'll go into the next slide because that is for Boruto. That studio has been around for a very long time. They're very much like, this is what the environment looks like top down, but now draw it like in this perspective. It's like, but you didn't provide me with that perspective. Oh no, I have to figure it out. So it depends on the production. Usually a lot more modern, newer studios provide you with backgrounds and stuff. So it's a toss-up. It really depends. But yeah, you're usually laying out a background at least to be like, yeah, this is where the ground plane is. This is what's moving, what's not moving. These are trees, these are buildings, whatever. But yeah. Yeah, like this particular shot for Boruto episode 258. Oh my god, the show goes on forever. They were in, if I remember correctly, in this episode, Naruto's family was going to a hot spring, like hotel, basically, a ryokan. And they were playing ping pong in a room, and all they gave me was just like a couple of like background references of like, this is what the room looks like from these angles, but not the angle I need. So I have to like piece together like, okay, if Naruto is standing at this end of the ping pong table, then the perspective has to be here. And this is what would be behind him, technically speaking. But yeah, Studio Period is an older studio, so a lot of their methods are still, I'll say, traditional. When it comes to certain things, there were a lot of times where I would just ask them, why do you need me to draw the background if you have a 3D model of it and you can't send that to the BG team? But it's their process, it's their pipeline, it's okay. But yeah, also, if you've noticed, there are also like these red boxes on the layout, and those are camera movements, usually indicated by letters or in and out. I prefer letters because in and out, I think easy in, easy out as an animator, so it just confuses me as a person. So usually like from A to C, that is the progression of where the camera is moving. So the camera starts out here, it will zoom in, and then it will pull back out a little bit, because if I remember correctly in this cut, he does this, like he like hits the ping pong ball. But yeah, just to see, this is what the storyboard looked like, and this is what I made it. This didn't look like.
I like their storyboard Naruto. He looks so young and cute.
I know,
like,
honestly,
he's like a dad now.
Yeah, he is a dad. It was funny because I remember getting these storyboards for the very first time. I was like, oh my god, I can actually like understand what character is what. These are probably like the most efficient, most clean storyboards I've ever gotten an anime, and I wish I knew who the episodic director was, because I want to thank them for drawing very clear storyboards. But yeah, and then sometimes, depending on the show, like Bleach, for example, sometimes they just straight up use manga panels as the storyboards to indicate what they want, which is like kind of cool because I don't have to figure out that much. But then the manga art varies differently from what the character designer and animation supervisor have set in terms of like the design rules for the animation part. So in this particular instance, this is from Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War, episode 11, cut 108. Hitsugaya is my favorite character, so to be able to draw him was like, oh my god, my anime dreams have come true. So for this particular shot, they just straight up like screenshotted the manga panel from like the actual manga and just put it in there and just filled in the blanks of like, yeah, his hand kind of should be here, but like this is the general like idea, go for it, I don't care. And so I took that and I was like, well, I guess I just gotta draw it then. And then I did. So you'll also see here in the shot there is Serifu. So you'll see right there where there's like the little red circle on a different layer, the jaw moves like 3 different poses. It's very limited animation, but yeah, lip sync in anime, as many people already know, it's not very intricate. It's very rare that you get to like do very expressive lip syncs, and if you are, it's purposeful, if that makes any sense. But for the most part, you only maybe need like 1 to like 3 mouth movements to convey like that type of stuff. So now, once the Genga and layout is done, that's when the episodic director and animation supervisor director go in and give you corrections, and you will see how drastically this cut is going to change overnight. So Genga versus Nigen, this is usually what the difference could look like. It's very minute, probably to most people who don't work in anime, but if you animate a lot, if you're a character designer, you just work in animation, the differences are very, very different. But yeah, for this particular cut, the Sakan was gracious enough to give me back my cut so I can do the corrections. And a lot of it was very much just like getting certain proportions a little bit more right. I think overall the foundation was there. This was my first episode working on Bleach, so I was not entirely comfortable with the characters just yet. So a lot of it just came down to like, yeah, we're just gonna push this a little bit more, push that a little bit more. That's usually the job of the Sakan, is to make everything more on model so that you like, wow, all the characters look like they're within this realm of like anime.
Yeah, like the first version was really good, but then like the second version, I was like, oh, okay. Like I would have just said, yeah, the first one, it's good. Goes to the next step. But I was like, oh, I see. These are really good notes. They're very helpful.
Yeah. A lot of it is just like very, very minute changes, but they go such a long way. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where like I'm always glad when I get to do Nigen, because it's a chance for me to like get an understanding of the episodic director and the animation supervisor directors, like I guess process and their thought process on like how to push things more on model for animation. Yeah, because usually it's just like, yeah, just make this line a pixel thinner and somehow it makes the sense, it just makes sense. I don't know, but yeah, like it's pretty amazing the work that they do, and I'm very grateful that I even had the opportunity to do Nigen on my own cuts, because usually it's just like, yeah, we have a team, we'll just do that. You don't have to do it, you already did enough, bye. So yeah, Bleach was my very first anime that I actually got to do Nigen on, and since then I always do Nigen on the cuts that I do for anime. So it's always interesting to see where I can push and where I can pull back, and where I need more improvement on certain aspects of my drawing and animating. But yeah, and then once you go to Nigen, and then it goes to Douga, which is in betweening, and then they color it, they composite it, they record sound, whatever, and then it becomes like final. But yeah, just to show you an example, like Sakuga, which I forgot to add on my terminology list. I'm pretty sure everybody's very familiar with this term. The Sakuga versus the final product. It's just, bam, it looks amazing. I couldn't do it by myself. So
this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's real anime.
It's real anime. Yeah. To see my cuts become real anime is like, wow, look at me. I'm living the dream. But yeah, and just like some more examples of work I've done. It's always a learning process when it comes to anime. I'm technically a second year is what they would call me, because I finished my first year in anime. But I still feel like I have so much more to learn, and so much more to like grow in. But overall, it's been just like a really fun time being able to draw characters that I technically grew up with, and now I'm the one who gets to like make them move and talk and act. I don't know how far I'll go in anime, but it's always fun to like try something different and new, complete from like what I do here in America, which is primarily storyboards. But yeah, these are like a couple of cuts that I've done. I think the most recent one is probably the second image, which is from Bleach episode 13, which aired in December. And this cut was in particular very interesting because I did this cut 3 weeks before the episode aired. So yeah, it's a very tight deadline, but we can get more into about that if there are like questions about like, oh, what's the work environment like working in anime and so on. But yeah, and then what was my next slide? Oh, and this is just some of the other stuff that I have. Yeah, so it's doesn't even touch the surface of what I've worked on. But just some like, I guess if you want to keep looking at my work, some upcoming animes that will be coming out. Actually, a month from now, an original Magical Girl anime called Magical Destroyers will be airing starting April. I would have to say this is possibly like my favorite anime I ever got to work on. It was my first very original anime I got to work on, and this particular anime was just super fun, and I really enjoyed the fact that the team took the time to like hold meetings with me and give me translations and give me a lot of creative freedom of like how I would interpret certain things. But yeah, and then next, I don't know when exactly The Devil is a Part-Timer will air, but they said sometime in 2023, so I'm assuming 2023. Also an anime I loved like way back in high school, so the fact that I got to work on like the continuation of the anime is cool. Of course, the second part of Bleach, which airs in July, I also am participating in. They're making me do action now, so I don't have a choice. And then probably the latest one is another original anime called Moonrise, which is a collaboration between Wit Studio. I'm sure everybody knows them from Ranking of Kings, Spy Family, the first 3 seasons of Attack on Titan, and in combination with Netflix. And this anime was probably like an honor to work on, because the lead character designer is the creator of Full Metal Alchemist, and to be able to get to animate her design was truly an honor. So yeah. And then on the American side, I did do some work on X-Men as a key animator, as most people know at this point, because that's what was advertised for this panel talk. I am currently working on the new animated project Castlevania Nocturne for Powerhouse Animation. And then as well, I've also done a little bit of work for the new animated project for Netflix's The Witcher. I can't really talk much about these three because they're still very much NDA. But yeah, thank you for listening to my little presentation.
I look
so
forward to that. Thank you so much for giving it. It was really informative. Let me see. I think I saw some questions come up in the chat. Let's see if I can scroll back through them.
Oh, so many questions. Thank you for all the clapping emojis.
Yeah, I love seeing them. They're all different colors.
I love representation.
Let's see. I remember seeing one that was also a question I had was how do you deal with like language barrier? Because you showed us a bunch of terms at the beginning. Do they usually provide translations for you, or are you just like studying Japanese? Like how do you navigate like a completely different like time zone, language, everything?
Usually
even getting paid,
both.
like how does that work?
So how I get paid, it's a combination of both, where personally I feel like I should be able to like speak some level of like comprehensiveness to them. So it's a mix between like me speaking Japanese to them, but then they also give me translations for usually like the storyboards. But most of the times the storyboards are clear enough that I know what they're going for. The only time I'll ever ask for like a translation is if there's dialogue in there and I just need to know like I need to be able to like read the like kanji or hiragana and know like phonetically, and my brain is like, okay, that's going to take at least 5 frames. So yeah, it's a combination of both. Again, a lot of like more newer modern studios will have like a translator there to be like, yes, I'm going to translate this whole entire meeting right now. So if you have any questions, please. How do I get paid? Usually PayPal or a bank wire transfer. There's like a whole entire process for that. And also before you ever accept work, you should ask them, hey, is sending money or wiring money to a foreign bank okay? Because sometimes if you don't say that, they'll just assume that you're working for free. But yeah, it's a combination of both, but I am learning Japanese because I do enjoy working in anime, and I would at least like to like not burden them anymore about the fact that I can't speak the language. I'm already a foreigner working on anime, so they're already doing a lot to like accommodate for me. The least I could do is just like, make it easier on their end.
That's really cool. I think that's really good to know, because like I think a lot of people are intimidated to work in anime because of the language barrier, but it's good to know that like there is a little bit of accommodation at the very least. But I'm sure like even being in meetings and hearing stuff over and over again, I'm sure you're like picking up all the terms.
Yeah. After a while, you're just like, oh, that's what that means.
Let's see. And yeah, it's good to know that you should ask for money to be paid. I have had some friends work in anime and they're like, bruh, yeah, that bank transfer didn't work and I never got paid for the cuts, and they're on TV and
yeah,
there's no money in my pocket for that. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're getting paid. Your time is very valuable.
Yes, it is. Get paid, guys. You make good work. You should be paid for your hard work. So
let's see. I guess I can jump into some questions. I have some from the chat, and I have some that people submitted via the RSVPs. So I'll just be going a little bit back and forth. Or is there anything else you wanted to just like say before I go into this?
No, not really. I'm down to answer any questions and try and demystify what's it like working in anime as an American.
All right, let's see.
These comments are so nice.
Yeah, all these upcoming animes that you showed, they look so cool. I'm really excited about the Magical Girl one. I really enjoyed Record, so interested to see more
Yeah,
magical girl content.
it feels weird to call it a magical girl anime because it's technically not, but it technically is. So it's like there are magical girls, but that's like not the point of the story.
Oh, here's an interesting question. Nathan asked, like, do you ever have to go to Japan, or would you just like mostly do it from home?
I do it from home. I don't go to Japan. I mean, it would be nice, but then I also think like, I don't know if I could do that. The language barrier and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I mostly do it from home, and usually I either send things in like at 6 p.m. in the evening or early in the morning, like 7 a.m. because it's reverse. So yeah, going to Japan in this economy, I know, right? I'm bored.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. I saw like some very cheap tickets to Japan for next month. I might be trying to fly over there. Not gonna work on anime, but just gonna be working on my American TV shows while being over there. So let's see. But yeah, if you put on some alerts on Google Flights, like it'll find you some really affordable tickets.
Nice.
I'll send you some. Let's see. Christopher Pianka asks, what advice do you have for huh?
I know Chris, we work together.
Oh, okay, nice. I was like, what advice do you have for beginners looking to put together a demo reel that gets noticed by Japanese studios?
Ooh. I will be quite transparent here because I'm pretty sure, again, everybody knows that the anime industry is a lot harsher compared to American animation in terms of like the budgets are a lot smaller, therefore the production schedules are a lot tighter, and the pay is not that good. That a lot of there's just, how do I say this? There's a never-ending need for new animators because they burn through artists so quickly. This isn't to discourage anybody, but for beginners, even if you're like a beginner or an expert, they will take anybody that they can get because they need people to animate it. And it's so hard to say because it's a very like I guess bleak reality that the working conditions could be a lot better in Japanese animation. So my advice for like beginners is to like don't be so quick to jump on the first anime offer that you get. Like actually take the time to research and understand like as much as you can their pipeline and their terminology and how they set things up. But also in terms of like a demo reel, I always think like showcasing that you have strong fundamental skills and strong draftsmanship will always go a long way. Because if you can't animate, let's say, a person walking, then how am I to expect you to animate a fight scene with 10 people in it that's intricate with special effects and everything? So for a lot of beginners for demo reels, like it's okay to have like your flashy pieces, but it's also important to showcase that you have very solid drawing and animating skills. That will always get you a very, very long way, regardless if you're working in like Japanese or American animation. It's just the stronger your fundamental skills are, the more versatile you are as an artist.
Nice. And the second part of the question were there any aspects of anime production process that you'd like to see happen over here in the West?
I think mostly just like having animators in-house, and having that direct communication between like animators, an episodic director, and an animation supervisor. For those who don't know, in American animation, we do a lot of outsourcing to places like South Korea, India, the Philippines, sometimes Japan. And the language barrier oftentimes can cause things in mistranslation. So unfortunately for storyboard artists here in America, we end up doing the jobs of not only storyboards, but layouts and sometimes key animation. So, and even then, when you have all that put together, there will always be an inevitable mistranslation, whether that's because of language, because of culture, or because they just don't understand our pipeline like we understand our pipeline. So I think one aspect I think American animation could take or learn from Japanese animation is to have like that direct communication of like having a team of animators within the studio to be like, hey, yeah, we want to do this thing and it's very complicated. Can we communicate that with you right now? As opposed to like, we made this really complicated thing. We spelled it out from A to Z 3 times, but we're still taking a gamble of whether or not we'll have to do a retake of it, because it's a gamble whether or not the outsourced or overseas studio will be able to execute what was set out or what was planned out for that sequence. And then also I think one thing American studios could learn from Japanese studios, and this is just personally for me, is to have a lot more variety of different types of storytelling. Even though, like, let's say like isekai anime, which if nobody knows what that means, isekai is a genre of anime where a main character is transported to a fantasy world and they live out their fantasy dreams. Even though you have like you probably have like 5 to 10 isekai animes, they're all different in some sort of way, and they don't allow themselves to sort of like step in each other's toes because of that. I think when it comes to American animation, we're very like polarized. It's either like we're on this end where it's adult, or we're on this end where it's for like kids. There's no real like in between that is happening. And I just find it very interesting how like when you look at it, anime is primarily IP based. IP stands for intellectual property. Sorry about that. Intellectual property and all that stuff. But because there's such a variety of like different types of stories, it doesn't feel like you're getting a reboot of the same thing over and over again. So yeah, I think, you know, having an in-house animation team and allowing for more diverse and variety of storytelling, even if like 2 shows like kind of sound the same, but their executions are different, that's what makes them have like variety. It would be really nice to see that. Next question.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. Like, I think we're starting to see a little bit more in more recent shows for the previous part about like having in-house animators. And I'm really glad to see that like we're starting to do that again in the US. Like,
yes,
like lately, like the last couple of shows I've worked on have had like an animator TD type of person at the very least to be like, this is what we can do, or we can do retakes on this like in-house. So so glad we're starting to get that. Yeah. Let's see. What are some unique questions I can find in here?
It's so many questions, so little time.
I think there was one that was like, how does a day look like for you whenever you take on an assignment? Like, how do you prepare, and what is your process like?
So I wake up, I cry. I'm joking. So usually a day in the life of an anime animator, it varies depending on what the cut is. So I personally like to my handy dandy planner where I plan out my whole entire day in intervals of blockage of time. So yeah, and in this particular one, there are like time intervals by hours, and I'll be like from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm going to work on Castlevania, and then I will eat lunch, and then at 1 p.m. till 3 p.m. I'll work on Boruto, and then from 4 to 6 I'll work on something else. So that's usually how I like to break down my days. I also like to do daily quotas where I'm like, okay, I have 10 cuts. The deadline is in 2 weeks. All right, divide that many days by this many cuts, and I will do this amount of cuts per day so that I am pacing myself. And usually I'll save like the the harder cuts for last, because I don't know what about it. I like being able to just finish the easy stuff right off the bat, so I don't have to like noodle around with that. But yeah, an average day is just like I wake up and I plan out, okay, from this hour to this hour I'm going to work on this. And then usually I just send out my work and then I cross my fingers that I did a good job.
Oh, and here's a really interesting question from Aaron. What kind of software do you use?
Oh, so I use Clip Studio Paint. Fun fact, a lot of anime productions use Clip Studio Paint because it doesn't cost a lot. There are some productions that use TV Paint, but since the budgets for animes are not the greatest compared to an American production, Clip Studio Paint's the way to go. I've been using that program since I was like 17, 18. So at this point, I'm just like, yeah, I'll just animate in Clip. Call it a day.
Yeah, Clip is so powerful for how much it costs. Like I can't go back to Photoshop. Like I use Photoshop at work and I'm like, oh yeah.
It's so, you're like, oh, I could just use Clip.
It just hits different. And let's see, let me go down the questions that were asked on the RSVP this time. Oh, Ashanti asked, like, what are your top 3 teas to drink?
My top three, usually my favorite is honey vanilla chamomile. Next would probably be like a lemon type of tea. And then 3 would probably be like some sort of like fruity tea, like blackberry or like raspberry. But usually my number 1 is honey vanilla chamomile with honey in it.
Nice. Those sound really good. Those sound really relaxing.
I know it is.
I always want tea that's like, give me all this energy. I need like straight black. I need like lots of matcha green tea.
I like to feel cozy.
And I have one from Laura. She said, which one do you like being more, an animator or a storyboard artist?
It's an interesting question because I that was a question I got a lot throughout college. It was like, oh, do you like telling stories or do you like drawing a lot? And this is probably a cop-out answer. But I always found that question to be silly because I think drawing and storytelling just go hand in hand. There are just times where like, yeah, I feel like animating right now. I feel like storyboarding right now. I think it's kind of, at least for me, it's sort of a silly question to ask if I like being a board artist or an animator more, because to me, they're still storytelling at the end of the day. So I love them both equally is the answer.
Like, I love both my children equally.
I don't play favorites with my children.
Let's see. Oh, and there were a few questions in the RSVP that were asking about your experience at the Nick Artist Program. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, I guess how you got in or what you would suggest for people who want to get into that program.
Oh God, that was like,
I know that's probably like
ago.
A long answer, but
it is a bit of an answer, but I can shorten it as best as I can.
Yeah.
3 years ago. Wow. How I got in. So in 2019, I took a trip to California for the very first time, and I was like, God, I gotta move here if I want to like work in animation. And then as I was coming back home to New York, that's when I discovered about the Nick Artist Program. There was like 5 days left to submit an application. I do not recommend this. And I put together a storyboard sequence of my personal project, which is up there, as my submission, along with 5 sketchbook drawings. That's right, 5 sketchbook drawings. I think 3 of them were storyboard thumbnails and the other 2 were character designs of the characters. And somehow they were like, yeah, let's choose this girl. And then in September, I got the call that I made it through the quarterfinals, and then I went through the most intense interview session or experience of my whole entire life. I went through like 10 plus interviews. I'll never have that experience ever again, but also I am not afraid to do an interview anymore because of it. But yeah, I went through the interview process. It was like I was living high Q, but for like art. I had my own sports tournament anime arc. And I was selected. I got the news the week of Thanksgiving of that year. And in a month and a half, I had to move to California. But it was a really great program, and I would suggest anybody to like shoot your shot for it. I don't think I would be where I am today without it, because I know it's a highly competitive program. So if you make it, it's like, wow, you're one of the up and comings. But even then, like just getting like going through the interview process alone, if you even like make it through like the quarterfinals, the semifinals, that just means you're industry ready at that point. So yeah, but overall the program was incredible. I loved every minute of it. Honestly, thinking back, I'm like, wow, that was 3 years ago. So much has,
oh my gosh, it
so
seems like
happened.
Forever ago, but also just yesterday.
Yeah, it's because it was during the pandemic that I was like, oh, yeah, that did
Time is
happen 3 years
broken.
ago.
And I guess we're ending at 3, so maybe a good departing question I have is, do you have any advice or let's see, like recommendations for people how to learn animation better, or how to move forward in the anime and animation industry? And any other last words you have, like anything you really just gotta get out there.
Let's see. I think the best way to learn is to just do. If you sit there and think of all the ifs all the time.
3:15. Okay.
Oh, 3:15. Oh, okay, we got 15 minutes. Okay. I think if you're always thinking of the ifs, and you'll just never end up doing, so you just gotta do it and try. A lot of things in life are trial and error, and even working in anime, like you saw my very first cuts for Madoka, those are not like well drawn. At least to me, I'm very harsh on myself. But then by the time like I get to Bleach, I've gotten a lot better understanding of the pipeline and like what's expected out of me, what's the draftsmanship like. So for any animator out there who wants to get better, it's really just like you just got to try and apply yourself and experiment different things. There's no real way you can like perfectly plot it out. It's all trial and error. But yeah, and further pushing yourself into the anime, that might be a hard question to ask, because I'm like a foreigner working in anime. But I just think like if you do good work, you are great to work with, and you meet your deadlines, that always goes a long way. Like when I was working on Boruto, because I handed in, I guess, decent work, and I handed it on time, and I wasn't like a pain to work with, that's how I got to work on Bleach. They were like, hey, you're really good at drawing these characters. Would you be interested in drawing on Bleach? And that's always how I kept getting job after job, is just do good work, meet your deadlines, and be like easy to work with. Yeah, there's no real secret sauce with that, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Like, did you do any like studies? Like, did you have any like resources that you looked at to like help improve your own work?
Oh, my own work? Oh God, yeah. If you can't tell, I have a bunch of books around me. This isn't nearly this is a fraction of my library, but I'm always constantly looking at like reference books, drawing books. I have a stack in front of me right now, all in different languages. I'm always studying like how does this artist do this? How can I deconstruct this, analyze this, and reconstruct it? You trying to have a book off, Lee? Yes, Derek, I am trying to have a book off. This is only a fraction of my library. My living room is also a library.
Yeah, we're gonna have to post those shelfies.
This is a fraction of my power. But also just like again, just always trying new things and always brushing up on your fundamental skills, and making sure you never lose that foundation, and seeing how you can break the rules sometimes, because you gotta learn the rules in order to break them in very fun ways. But yeah.
Oh, okay. And Bree has a good question. She's like, do you have any thoughts on the current climate of the animation industry? Or any advice to hopefuls that are anxious about the rockiness of animation at the moment? I know in the US animation industry, it's not great right now. There's still stuff happening, but it seems like a lot of stuff is not happening at the same time. So do you have any words of hope for those people?
Oh, do I have thoughts?
I have a lot of thoughts too. Hopefully things will get better soon eventually, but
oh, okay. My yes, this is tea time, isn't it? My thoughts. Oh man. Honestly, I do have a lot of thoughts, and I've already expelled all of my anger and tears about what's happened, not just to like me personally, but also to my friends and co-workers and stuff. I think how do I say this? I am a pessimist at heart. It might be hard to tell because I smile a lot and I put on a optimistic, bright demeanor most of the time. But I really am like a cynical and pessimistic person. And for me, in order to stop, or at least like stop my intrusive thoughts from getting the better of me, I have to turn those thoughts into positive somehow. So for me, what I usually think is like, sometimes it has to get worse in order to get better. Because once you already hit the worst, or like you've hit rock bottom, well, okay, now all that there's left is to like go back up. So I feel a lot of emotions for not just people who are currently in the industry, but also artists who are aspiring and trying to break into the industry. I feel for both parties because it's just not fair for either group to be going through this situation right now. But I don't think we should lose hope, and we should stop telling the stories that we want to tell. Because if anything, like, things happen in cycles. And again, if this is the worst point, like down here, then all that we have left is to like go right back up to the top, and it'll just continue and continue. But yeah, I would say don't give up hope, and keep telling the stories that you personally would have wanted to see when you were a kid. At least that's what keeps me going. I don't work on the shows that I work on because I'm like, oh yeah, Bleach. I got that clout. No, I work on the shows that I work on because it's really for like little me back in like elementary school and middle school who had those dreams, and now I can be like, yes, I did these things, and now I can share them back with you, but also with other people who might be like me, just a girl from the East Coast. So it always comes back to that, don't lose hope. Always keep creating the stories that you want to create, even in the face of adversity, or if you feel like the industry doesn't feel like your stories matter right now. There's always at least one person out there in the world who do think that your story matters. And that could be yourself, it could be your mom, your dad, your best friend, your dog. Yes, I am from the East Coast, New York. Hi.
Yeah, East Coast rap.
Yeah.
I'm also from New York, but not really so much anymore. Too much LA now. Let's see. I think Janae had asked if you need an internship to work in animation.
Not necessarily. That's a bit of a tough one because it also goes hand in hand of like, do I need to go to college to go to art school to work in animation? Not really. The little asterisk is if you need a visa and you're an international student or somebody from overseas, that's mainly the yeah, that's a situation where you do need to go to art school or art college or have like an internship and stuff because of visas. I'm not well versed in that, but I do know the process is very difficult and hard.
Yeah, I do not envy my my non-American friends trying to like navigate the visa system of the US.
It's quite complicated. But I don't think you necessarily need an internship or to go to art school to go to or like just to work in animation. I personally don't believe you need to break the bank in order to achieve your dreams. You just have to be creative, especially nowadays since we have the internet and we have YouTube, we have Brain School, and all those types of resources that are far more affordable than like spending $60,000 a year to go to school. And on top of that, you still have to buy a Cintiq, textbooks, like equipment, like paintbrushes, paint, whatever. I think as long as you present the skills that you are an industry level artist and you can adapt, you work well with people and you meet your deadlines, then you don't necessarily need an internship or a college degree to like do that. Yeah, Grady. It just comes down to like just being disciplined and showcasing you have the skill set. Again, I don't think you should spend hundreds of thousands of dollars only to be in debt after the fact. In order to achieve your dreams. There are creative solutions to the problems. And with the internet now, we have so many more resources. It's so much more easy to gain information about working in animation. So I would advise take advantage of that. Also, social media exists. You think I'm kidding when I say most of my jobs come through Twitter? I am not kidding. Make use of social media as well, because oftentimes that's where like directors, recruiters, are like looking at people's art and they're like, hey, this person kind of matches the style that I'm working on for this production. Let's interview them and see if they'd be interested. Just make use of all the other alternatives. Like school isn't, or internships are not the only pathway to getting in, although I can't say that because I did do that path, but I am just like, I like structure.
Yeah, a lot of my friends didn't go to art school or didn't have any internships. You just gotta do good work. Stay good.
Just do good work.
Keep posting it on the internet so people can see that it's good.
No one will know if you don't make it known. But yeah. Where can I follow you on social media? Honestly, if you Google Li Cree, I am the first thing that pops up. So any more questions?
Let's see. I guess like there was like a few that I had seen that like, is it hard to work in the US space with an anime style? Like, have you had any problems with that? Or do you feel like we're more open now out here to more anime styles?
I often get jobs because I can draw anime. If this was like the early 2000s to like 2010s, I'd be a different case, because very much during high school and during college, I was always told you'll never get a job in animation if you draw anime. And there's only been one person in my whole entire life that was able to like break it down to me in a way where like I understood, which was my high school art teacher, Mr. Lyon. He's not watching right now, but I will always remember you, Mr. Lyon. I remember him sitting me down in class and telling me, you're good at this, and I know that you want to do anime, but if you want to do it well, you need to learn these fundamental skills in draftsmanship. So yeah. At the time, I guess I was like kind of fed up because I was like, I just want to do my own thing. But from his perspective, I guess he saw the potential in me and wanted me to learn that if I'm gonna do this thing I really want to do, I have to do it well so that nobody can really contest my skill in what I do in any type of visual style. So that was the only person in my whole entire life that was a teacher that ever like sat me down and told me, yes, I can draw anime, but if you want to do it, you gotta be good. You gotta be so good that they don't have a choice but to pick you. And years later, 10 plus years later, here I am. Like I recently did a job interview for a character design position, which was quite surprising because I didn't apply for this particular studio, but they found my work online, and I asked them in the interview, why did you pick me? I make it very known that I mostly do storyboards and animation, and they were pretty transparent, and they're like, oh, it's because you draw anime well. Like you draw it like what we're looking for.
Heck yeah.
And yeah, I did draw the suit. I did draw the hot Clark Kent, and I did get hired as a freelance character designer for a bit because of that.
Nice. Living the dream.
I live the dream. I draw hot anime characters and get hired for that. So I think now, because the people who are like your supervising directors, your episodic directors, your executives are now people who grew up on, Yu Yu Hakusho, Cowboy Bebop, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, anything that's like pre-2000s. Now they're the ones who are like making the creative decisions of what gets greenlit, what's the art style, like what's the tone we're going for. That now they're looking for artists who can draw anime. It's like, well, we need somebody who can draw Full Metal Alchemist. Let's hire this person who does fan art of it. But yeah, do you suggest doing fan art or drawing characters from existing shows? I mean, I'm always a fan of draw fan art, write fanfic, because fan fiction is just basically a spec script, and fan art is just you like learning how to draw in a different visual style. I would just say take it a step further and be like, hey, what if I took Deku from My Hero Academia and did a character turnaround of him? Now you can showcase that you can draw in that style, but also do a character turn. Hey, what if I did this lifestyle drawing, but in the style of this show, to see if I can break it down and make it easier? Like, you can draw like a fan art and stuff, but I would always suggest like always have like an avenue of applying foundation skills to it to showcase that you understand how to break down this particular style and reconstruct it. Because again, that's what it all comes down to, being versatile. Yeah.
Heck yeah. All right, so we're at time. So I just wanted to see, like, do you have any last words? I know we like kind of did that a little bit ago, but
oh yeah, we did, didn't we? Any last words?
Words of encouragement, anything you want to just let people know where to find you?
You are not alone. As Evangelion once said, you are not alone. No, in all seriousness, I know things look pretty bleak right now in the animation industry, but please do not lose hope. There are people like us, Black and Animated, and many other advocacy groups that are here to uplift you and, encourage you to make sure that like there is space for you here. There is space for you here. If I wasn't here, then oh god, that'd be bad. But yeah, also just when it comes to working in anime, please do your research, and please don't always accept the first thing that's offered to you, because you don't want to get taken advantage of, and you should protect yourself. I mean, yeah. And also, this is just a shout out to my mom and my stepdad. Hi, thank you for always supporting me.
Yeah, shout out to the parents.
Thank you for watching and watching me ramble about anime characters for like an hour and 15 minutes. But yeah, just don't give up. Keep creating stories. Just keep doing. I don't know what else to say. I just hope that this talk and me showing you this work was helpful, insightful, provided a lot of information. And yeah, you can just Google me because I'm too lazy to list out all of my socials. Yes, just Google Li Cree, and I'm the first thing that comes up. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lee. It was so good to talk to you today.